Hi guys and welcome to another FPL video, and today guys I'm going to give you reasons as to why you should look or to at least certainly consider triple captaining Haaland for game week 2. He's off the mark, isn't he? And I regret now. I think my biggest regret was, not putting him in the team. He was always going to perform, and I just wish I could look back in hindsight and just think, why did you not put him in the team? I think it was because I looked at Spurs. They're under a very good manager in Conte this season. He had that very, very favourable fixture against Southampton at home. And I was proven right that Spurs were going to do well because they sit top of the league right now. They scored 4 goals against Southampton. And you would think Harry Kane starting and Spurs scoring 4 goals, he was going to at least be involved with at least 2 or 3 of those goals. He was involved in 0 of them. I think he only registered 1 or 2 shots in the game as well. And whilst I do think long term, Spurs are going to be good, and I think he will be good, I'm sitting there right now thinking I want to try and bank my points as soon as possible. I've got my 1 free transfer available. I'm looking at Spurs away to Chelsea. I've got a double up of Spurs players of Heung-min Son and Harry Kane. I'm thinking that might not be the best keeping that double up, and instead I decided to make the executive decision on Saturday night before the inevitable price rise of Haaland transfer came out. Bring Haaland in, and I woke up this morning and Haaland's price has risen to 11.6. and his ownership has now risen to over 50% of the FPL managers. Little error on the graphics here. That Newcastle game for game week 3 for Haaland is an away fixture, but City have a lot of favourable fixtures before the Champions League does start. Teams such as Crystal Palace, I also believe that they play Nottingham Forest before the end of August as well. Spurs themselves have some decent fixtures also, but I think if you're looking long term, Haaland is just the right one, and I should have gone with him for that game week 1. But let's go through some of the stats that Haaland got from that game against West Ham, and then reasons as to why you should at least be seriously looking to consider to triple captain him for this upcoming game week against Bournemouth. So let's get into some of his stats from the game against West Ham. Expected goals now for him is 2.17. His shots per 90 minutes expected is 5.49. And then the game week points that he picked up for that match against West Ham was 13. If you had him as a captain, 26. And if you actually used him as a triple captain, where someone in one of my mini leagues did use his triple captain for game week 1, which is always a massive risk, especially away to West Ham, where it would been very, very good over the past couple of years, where he used a triple captain and he got 39 points. Very good return. But now, this weekend, City are playing newly promoted Bournemouth at home. And yes, whilst Bournemouth got themselves up to a very, very good start in the Premier League this season against Aston Villa by winning 2-0, no offence to Aston Villa, but Bournemouth were playing Aston Villa. It was their first home game for a couple of seasons, so Bournemouth were always going to be fired up for it. Their first game back after a couple of years at home, they were always going to be right up for that game, and they came away with good results. Now a reality check. They're now playing Manchester City away. The champions from last season. Bournemouth are coming up from the Championship, which is still a very, very competitive league, don't get me wrong, but there's a big physicality change between the Championship and the Premier League. I don't think some of them have got Premier League experience from years gone by, but most of them, certainly from a defensive standpoint, I've heard some people saying that they're not even as strong this current side as what they were come the end of last season in the Championship. They've had a few players that have gone since then. Yes, they've kept Solanke and stuff like that, but the thing with owning Haaland is for this upcoming game, you don't have to worry about City conceding goals. You just want to focus on him scoring goals or him getting at least assists or something like that. So you don't have to worry about Solanke and any potential goals that he could get. You just have to focus on Haaland getting his attacking returns. And I don't see why he's going to go from scoring those 2 goals against West Ham, from the movements, from the runs he was making in that game. I don't see why all of a sudden that's going to change for this game against Bournemouth. I really, really don't. I think if he had blanked in that game against West Ham, then there's 2 competitive fixtures, the Community Shield against Liverpool and the game against West Ham, where he hasn't got a return. Then there might be a little bit of hesitation as to whether you should make that move or not. But because he came in and got those, and got that very, very good brace against West Ham, there is a lot of incentive to want to go and put him into your team. And then there's also be quite a lot of incentive to also potentially triple captain him. So let's look through why you should maybe look to potentially do that. Well, he is playing a newly promoted team. We touched on that a little bit before. There's a lot of incentive there. It's his home debut as well. He's going to want to make a good impression. He is going to want to set... He set a statement against West Ham. He's now going to want to set an even bigger statement. He has got an ego. There's no doubt about it. I'm not saying that's like a bad thing. I mean, obviously it can at times be a bad thing, but he has got that about him, which I suppose is kind of what you want a little bit from a striker, especially a top striker like himself. But he will want to make a massive, massive statement. In that game against Bournemouth, he'll be looking for a hat-trick. I have no doubt he won't be satisfied with just 1 or 2 goals. He'll be looking for the full 3 goals and potentially maybe even some more. Other things to consider as to reasons to why and triple captain him. City at the moment, they're only in one competition. They are going to be involved in other competitions as the season goes on. Of course, they're going to be involved in the League Cup soon, and they're going to also be involved in the Champions League. Now, of course, with the World Cup taking place this year, usually the Champions League would run for the group stage all the way into December. This year, the Champions League group stage will be finished before the middle of November. So those midweek games is going to be a lot of times where City, not long after September starts, City are going to be playing twice a week. And I tell you right now, and if anyone obviously knows from watching City in years gone by, Guardiola rotates that City team a lot. There will be a lot of rotation between maybe on one day, Haaland plays the Champions League game against Real Madrid, for example, in the group stage, and then Alvarez starts the home game against Fulham. And then one week Alvarez might play against Slavia Prague, and then Haaland starts the game against Spurs at home. And there's things to look at there where, as the months go on, of course, Haaland is still going to always be like the main starter for Manchester City in an attacking perspective, but he won't be as guaranteed to start as what he is now. And with the fact that he's already hit the ground running in the Premier League, it might just make sense to go in for that triple captain. For me, there's 3 occasions to triple captain him. In my opinion, the best, apart from a double game week. Because obviously they're going to come later on in the season, and that could be another time to consider that. You got Bournemouth at home this weekend, you got Palace at home on game week 4, and then there's also, I think, game week 5 they play Forest either home or away, or maybe it's game week 6 or something like that. And that's all before the Champions League starts and before the League Cup starts for City as well, due to their inclusion in Europe. They don't come into that until the 3rd round. So he is very, very likely to start all of those games. You can't quite say the same for him starting every single game come, October or late September or whatever, when they're going to be in, 3 competitions. Yes, there is obviously a lot of people will say, well, maybe I should save him for a double game week. That double game week, who knows, potentially, and this is another thing to consider here. As you can see here, he missed 16 games this season for Dortmund due to injury. That wasn't just on one occasion through one injury. That was through 3 separate injuries. And they came in spells of missing 3 games, 6 games, and then 7 games. So, he can pick up injuries. Quite common to pick up 3 injuries for Dortmund last season. Just leads me to think, is he going to have an injury-free season? Probably not. A player that gets injured 3 times in one season, I would just be surprised the season after to completely have no injuries at all. I think he has had an injury problem even in seasons before that, for Salzburg and stuff. Whilst he's fit now and whilst he's hit the ground running, there just could be that incentive to think, well, you know what? Use that triple captain on him now. And of course, you don't have to use a triple captain on him. You can use them on other players like Salah or Son, for favourable fixtures that they have. But there's just a lot of incentive for these games at home to Palace, at home to Bournemouth, that game against Forest, which is also coming up. There's a lot of incentives. And obviously, again, there, as I mentioned in the final bullet point, City at the moment only in one competition. Once the domestic cup starts and the UCL starts, Haaland may not be as guaranteed to be in those starting 11s. And obviously, when you use your triple captain, you want your player to be starting that particular game. And whilst I always think he's going to be very, very likely to play for City in the Premier League, once the Champions League and domestic cups do start, he's not going to quite have that same guarantee as what he does now. And whilst we know he's fully injury-free now, if you're ever thinking of captaining Haaland, now might be the good time. Some people might say, well, I might just wait for a double game week to come up with fixture changes in like March or whatever. Well, then potentially City might be in a quarter-final or a last 16 of the Champions League, potentially against a really, really difficult opponent. Maybe in the last 16 they get Bayern Munich, for example, and then they have a double game week where, Guardiola might, rather focus on him playing, in the second leg against Bayern Munich rather than starting him in a double game week against like Southampton and Chelsea or something like that. So it's not maybe always the best to wait for the double game weeks. It might always just be best to think, well, he's playing right now, he's injury free, he's in good form, he's playing a newly promoted team at home this weekend. Now could be potentially the chance to triple captain. And I'm not fully committed to it because I might wait for the Palace game, I might wait for the Forest game, but I'm very, very interested and I'm thinking a lot of going with a triple captain for him against Bournemouth. But let me guys know what you think in the comment section as well. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching and I'll see you guys later.